Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hey, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. I'm your host, Joe Slepsky, and this is the only show where I, Joe Slepsky, watch every episode of G.I. Joe, Real American Hero, in sequential order with a friend. And this week, my friend is one Christopher Goldrup. Chris, welcome to Joe on Joe.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here and an honor.
Oh, my God. Now, Chris is a digital marketing analyst out here in Los Angeles, but I know him from the comic book shop.
That's right.
And from being a general pop culture nerd.
Kinda.
You love
maybe
comics?
not so general. It was very
You love wrestling.
I do.
You're a big fan of Pablo Romero Estevez's Wildcat Wrestling.
That's correct. Out of Louisiana. Luke Hawks and his troupe of bangers over there in down in the Bayou. Wildcat Pro.
How long you been a wrestling fan? Probably.
I've been a wrestling fan my whole life.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. As long as I can remember. I grew up in a wrestling-centric part of the world.
Where was that? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Maine. And Maine, of course, it was WWF territory back in those days. WWF territory.
I think I read that Larry McMurtry book. All the best wrestlers come from Maine.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly, or at least the best. I mean,
is that where early WWF started?
Well, they were primarily New England, and so Bangor was a big town for that promotion. That was one of the bigger venues. Where I grew up about an hour south of Bangor, and it was a huge WWF town. And also, isn't
Bangor like known for crabbing?
No, it's not. It's too
fishing.
It's too far inland.
There's no fishing in
Bangor.
Bangor?
No, there's no fishing in Bangor. You'd have to travel a bit. You'd have to travel a bit east for the crabbing, Bar Harbor and the like. No, but Maine is known for Maine has had. Maine has a high profile for for example, I grew up close to Lewiston, where Muhammad Ali.
Lewiston, oh Lewiston.
Yeah,
I'm getting my directional parts of the world wrong. So why do I know Bangor, Maine? Like, why? I know I've heard that as like the hub of something. What do you think it is?
I can't honestly think. Oh, yeah, no, Beverly just
his lovely wife Beverly.
Yeah,
Sitting in the studio audience today. No.
Right,
You're
and
fine.
for some reason,
Stephen King.
Yeah, Stephen King.
That's exactly what I'm thinking
Stephen
of.
King. I don't know why I forgot that.
Did you know him at all growing up? Like, was he like as a local presence?
He is a very local presence. His kids all went to the public schools. I didn't grow up in Bangor. I grew up in a town called Waterville, which, if you know Waterville, it
doesn't hold any water with me.
And if you know Waterville, it's only because it's the site of Colby College, which is this high-profile, tiny liberal arts college. But yeah, his kids all went to the local public schools. He was still quite involved with the University of Maine, which is close to Bangor in Orono. He's a presence, and you'd happen to, like you could go to the movie theater in Bangor, and you're seeing like the latest Nightmare on Elm Street film, and he'd be sitting in the audience with his boys. I haven't met him, but you see him. You see him. Out and about in the town.
It's so funny you mentioned that. He has a G.I. Joe connection. Do you know what that is?
I don't.
He, and specifically, I believe his son, so we're talking probably Joe Hill.
Joe Hill, yeah.
Is the one I'm talking about. They designed a G.I. Joe character back in the day.
Really?
Yeah. They designed Crystal Ball, the G.I. Joe, or I'm sorry, the Cobra. Mesmerist, the Cobra hypnotist. That's the word I'm searching for.
He shows up in Transformers versus G.I. Joe, the IDW series.
They're also using him right now in the new Aubrey Sitterson G.I. Joe series.
Okay.
Crystal Ball was designed by Joe Hill and Stephen King.
That's great.
Because Joe Hill apparently was a huge G.I. Joe fan, and Stephen King was Stephen King. So he reached out and said, "Hey, I'll write this file card for you guys." And so that's how we get Crystal Ball, who is like the seventh son of the seventh son. All these like demonic mystical stuff.
That doesn't surprise me. Joe Hill is our age, and so he probably would have been he must have been a huge G.I. Joe fan
Well,
growing up.
And he's a really good. He's an excellent author.
Yes,
like, first
yes,
of all,
he
but,
is.
Like, his comic stuff is
yes,
great.
he is. Lock
and Key
is
and did you ever read The
tremendous.
Cape?
Yep.
That he wrote. That was pretty sweet.
Yep. No, so he's tremendous.
And you grew up a G.I. Joe fan, right?
I did. Oh, and we were talking about WWF, of course, and WWF, of course, has the G.I. Joe connection. And
Well, sure, Sergeant
Slaughter,
I mean,
the drill sergeant.
Yeah, that's of course. This is the season of G.I. Joe that they went wrestling.
Yes.
That's
right. That's right.
Sergeant Slaughter's on the show now.
Okay.
No, he doesn't show up all that much. I think probably because they couldn't afford him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he shows up.
So does he do his own voice in the cartoon? He's his own voice.
Absolutely.
Because I think about back the.
There's not that many people that could get that frustrated and also deliver a line as well as Sergeant Slaughter. Eddie's Marine.
Maggot.
Well,
you say that.
Eddie's disease.
You say that, but I mean, I can't tell you how disappointed I was to find out so many years after the fact that the Hulk Hogan cartoon, Hulk Hogan's Rock and Roll Wrestling, that was on CBS on Saturday mornings, that wasn't Hulk Hogan doing his own voice. It wasn't. It was Brad Garrett from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Oh, funny.
He did the voice of Hulk Hogan.
They couldn't afford Hulk.
I guess they
probably could afford Captain Lou, though. It was probably Captain Lou's
None of
voice.
those, none of those guys were doing their own voice. It was just Hulk Hogan was the one that broke my heart. But
I'll tell you what, though. Voice acting is a skill.
Mm-hmm.
Even for actors, voice acting is a skill.
Yeah.
So I could easily see they get a bunch of wrestlers on mic and it just sounds like gibberish.
Sure.
Backcountry gibberish.
Sure.
They don't know how to do
even
cartoon voices.
That's right. And you see that on shows like The Simpsons all the time where they have a celebrity guest, who might be the world's greatest actor, and then you put them in front of a microphone not responding or reacting to anything and giving them lines, and they
freeze up. Yeah.
Or they lose the ability to figure out what's the where am I, where do I emphasize, what am I actually trying to get across.
Typically it comes across as really flat. Yep.
Yes.
I totally agree. Which is why I'm so glad we have the wonderful voice talents on G.I. Joe. Yes. Although they are all celebrities in our hearts.
Yes.
So you grew up as a fan of the
toys and the cartoons. My best friend Craig DeRoseby and we were huge fans.
Craig DeRoseby, shout out!
Yes. I'm sure he'll be listening to this because he'll see the reference to it on my Facebook feed.
Awesome. Hey, Craig.
And so we were in junior high when the first miniseries came out. And I remember we spent many a lunch period dissecting those 5 half-hour episodes. Just you had
to wait a whole year for the next one.
Oh, I was one of the first families in my neighborhood to have a VCR, so I remember taping those.
That's exciting.
So we had those things memorized. We had those episodes memorized, so much so that when they took the 5 episodes and cut them together into the 2-hour movie, I was able to say, "Oh, they cut that scene out for time." There were scenes that they had cut out. There was a scene. There was a scene in the original miniseries where they were trying to test the mass device, see if it worked okay with just 2 elements. Right. And so Gung Ho put his gun on the platform, and they beamed it into his hands, and it came out all twisted. And,
awesome.
And he was all upset because it was his. He's like, "Be careful with her, she's my baby." And then it was all twisted, all broken, and everything. So they knew the mass device wasn't going to work with just the 2 elements. And when they cut the episodes together for the 2-hour movie, they cut that scene out, and I remember very explicitly, knowing that, recognizing that, and that's probably the sort of thing that kept me out of all the really good schools.
My favorite made-for-TV moment when I was a kid was watching Superman, the movie on CBS, because they would add scenes to it. And
that's right.
They would add the scene that you see it now in all the DVD stuff, but it was when he's busting into Luthor's lair, and Luthor turns on the ice machine and the heat and the flamethrowers and the machine guns, and that's cut from the regular version of the movie.
Right.
And for some reason, they had to add it to make time to get an extra half hour of commercials and stuff for the show. So I'd watch it on CBS, and it'd burn into my brain. And then you rent the movie, VCR or VHS tape, or you watch on HBO.
Or the laser disc,
And so, as a kid, you're like, wait a minute, I know I saw this scene. Like, I know that scene exists.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
And that's really I think the kind of thing that isolates people like us from other people is this: when we when we watch things like that and we notice those things, it earmarks us as a specific personality type that makes us
So you also are a fan of the comic book, which I'm a massive fan of.
Yes, I think I was a bigger fan of the comic than I was the cartoon. The comic spoke to me because of it. It was a little bit more. It was a little bit more adult. Certainly, certainly a little bit more. Sort of, darker.
Yeah.
Sort of. Sort of thing. Actual death, and there was one thing about the cartoon that always bothered me is that with all of this, gunplay and ordnance that that nobody ever died.
Yeah. So what issue do you remember? Like roughly like issue numbers? Like were you on it from the start?
I was on it from almost the very start. I believe.
Then how long did you read?
I believe the first issue that I bought off the newsstand was probably issue number 10.
Okay.
I seem to recall it was an episode where they were in a South American. It was a storyline. They were in a South American country and they were in a pillbox and it got bombed.
Is the cover the one with the boat?
Yeah,
them jumping off the boat as it's being bombed.
Possibly.
I feel like that's
possibly
one of those early. Yeah.
But I remember I had that issue where the silent issue.
Of course,
I bought that. So I continued to buy that. Yeah, I continued to collect that well into the low 100s.
Did you have any favorite characters?
My favorite character at that time, one of my favorite characters was certainly Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow was
nice.
a favorite. As far as the figures go,
you have no honor, Chris Goldrup. You will feel the wrath. Storm Shadow.
And I loved like Shokusugi and Revenge of the Ninja and stuff like that in the early 1980s.
Yeah.
So the ninjas were the best.
Were massive in the 1980s.
Ninjas were the best, and I loved the Flint action figure. Flint for some reason
Flint was cool.
For some reason Flint, he looked cool. I remember getting the figure and looking at the card, and it said his military specialty was warrant officer. And I remember I had to go and ask my father what a warrant officer was.
And what is it?
It is
Isn't it a form of being like an MP?
Yeah, exactly. It's military police. Yeah, it's like it would be like a
summons
detective
server.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
He's constantly knocking on people's doors, going,
serving.
"Yeah, hi, is Bill Franklin here?"
That's right.
Yes,
yep.
I'm Bill Franklin.
Well, you've been
served by
Yeah.
Flint.
Yeah.
Like that was actually one of the that was one of the now you knows that they never aired. They're like, and now you know, never open a door to a warrant server.
Yeah, exactly.
G.I.
It's like
Joe.
it doesn't count if he can't put it in your hand.
Right.
Oh,
right.
no, thank you. Now I know.
Exactly. They have the guy cutting his own arms off. I have no hands to put it in.
Open your mouth.
Trump, you.
Bite down.
You cannot get me with your warrant. Awesome fun. Well, Chris, I'm excited. Today's episode is called Let's Play Soldier.
Okay.
Now, I say I'm excited, but I'm here to tell you it's a downer of an episode. It's really good, but the content is really, really awkward. I think what this episode is, because as listeners, as you see, we'll get into it. It's about half Asian, half American GI babies. Now, I believe the story, it takes place in Thailand, but I think you could substitute that quite easily for being a statement on Vietnam.
Yeah, especially being in the 1980s.
Right.
These kids would have been 10 years older. So.
And it's dealing with these kids, these orphans having, kind of a bum life and the G.I. Joe wanting to help them out. But it's got a great message because it does bring awareness to the topic.
Absolutely.
Which I don't think was getting a lot of play at the time. So it is an important topic. I don't mean to say it's a bummer in that regard. I just mean it's a heavy topic to tackle on a kids show.
Right.
It really is. Like, it was shockingly.
It certainly sounds like it. And I think this is probably about the time that we started to see that awareness. I distinctly remember an episode of Different Strokes where Mr. Drummond met the son that he fathered in Korea
Right.
as an adult.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes. And then they took that son down to the bike shop and he got molested. I saw that episode too. And then Mr. T busted in.
Mr.
T
Dudley
busted in and beat Dudley up while Clarence Clemens played the saxophone in the background.
Right.
I saw that one episode. It was
And Nancy-
massively,
right.
It was a very, very special episode.
And
of
then
Different Strokes.
exactly, very special. And then Nancy Reagan walked in and told
yeah.
everybody to just say no.
Yeah, and then half the cast went out immediately and got high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, I do remember that. I do remember that episode.
Yeah.
So it's an important topic.
Right, and MASH did more than one episode about about the unfortunate children who were fathered by American GIs.
Yeah, but I don't know how many children G.I. Joe fans are watching MASH.
No, I'm sure that's true.
You know,
I guess
like
maybe
it's all
just
about
me.
audience.
Maybe just me. You know.
Well, actually, you know what? I say that, but I think a lot of families watch MASH together, and certainly it's military themed. So there actually probably was a lot of. I wasn't one of them just because I always thought MASH was really dry and boring. I like it now as an adult.
Exactly.
But as a child, I was always like, MASH is always on. It's always on.
Yeah.
I'm done with it.
Yeah.
Do. You know, like strangle the kid. You think it's a chicken.
Right.
You know,
Oh, God.
you know.
I cannot tell you. I saw that when it was first aired, and that just destroyed me. I think I was probably 12 years old or so. My mom was a huge MASH fan, so we watched it every week, and I remember staying up for that episode.
Yeah, it's a powerful episode. So this is a powerful episode.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Chris.
Right on.
Let's play Soldier. So what was
There's Flint.
There is Flint. What was your prize toy? Like what was the main, like did you have one of the big play sets or?
I always coveted the aircraft carrier or this space shuttle, but I was never able to grab those.
Did you have like the Joe base or anything like any
it was
any
mostly
of the cars or any of the
mostly the mobile vehicles.
Yeah.
A lot of figures, a lot of mobile vehicles.
Do you
not a
remember
lot of play
one
sets.
of them that was kind of your jam?
You know, I loved the Dreadnoks, and they had there was a
Thunder Machine?
Cobra. There was a Cobra Jeep. That I really liked.
The Stinger. I think that was the Stinger. Was it black? With red missiles?
It wasn't the tank. It was the actual Jeep.
Yeah, I think that was the Stinger. Yeah, that's great.
But that's and I had a Stalker figure.
Well, this is called Let's Play Shoulder, and it's written by Sharman DeVono.
I wonder if that's a relative of is it Vin DeBono.
Who's Vin DeBono?
I don't know, that guy who did created America's Funniest Home Videos or something.
Oh. I hope so. Well, it opens up in a like I said, I think this is Thailand.
Yeah,
but
this
it's
looks
in like a Southeast Asian style land.
Yeah,
They're not in America.
It looks like Rambo. It looks like
it totally looks like Rambo.
Yeah.
And
it was the cartoon. The Rambo cartoon is done by the same production company, right?
I don't know. That I don't know off the top of my head. And there's a bunch of Joes, and they were infiltrating this village. You see the quote bad guys. They look like they're dressed like Viet Cong.
Yeah, pirates. They're pirates.
They're pirates. And they apparently they've got the people of the village working for them in some capacity.
Yeah.
Wetsuits underwater. They're basically Joes are a little undercover here, which is kind of cool to see.
Right. I mean, one of them did fire off a shot, but it kind of looks like he shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
It's like the very beginning.
That was weird.
The very beginning, gung ho fires a shot.
And here comes a tomahawk, kind of blazing, and they're attacking this pirate. There we go. But we got a lot of heavy hitters. This is cool.
Yeah, here we
go.
go.
We got Gung Ho. It's like the All Marine squad.
Yeah.
We got Gung Ho, Leatherneck, Low Light, Beachhead. Although Beachheads are Army Ranger, I think.
And that guy who looked like Blackjack Mulligan.
Yeah. And Wetsuit was flying in the ocean.
Yeah.
And they're carrying something. It looks like it was like honey or something like that.
They were carrying pots, but
I feel like it's some kind of. It's got to be some kind of drug.
It should have been
drug component or something. That's great.
The capitalist machine.
That sounds like something Larry Hama would have written.
Yeah,
that feels like a Larry Hama written line because he would throw that into the comic a lot, where they would capture a guy and he would say like, "You're the running dog lackey of a,"
Yep.
That's a total Larry Hama line.
You got that orange skunk on his hand.
Yeah,
well,
there's this
okay.
orange gunk, so I think that is drugs.
Yeah, it's not honey, but he's like now all of a sudden, is he dead?
I think we're going to find out here.
I can tell you nothing. That isn't good enough.
This is
See, so I
Oh,
am
look
convinced.
at this. They're torturing him to get him to talk. It's like, if you don't talk, we're going to put your face in this hallucinogenic.
Yeah,
Hey.
I'm convinced that Leatherneck, at least as portrayed on the show, is the stand-in for, like, if they would have had Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, if okay.
Had, you know what I mean, like as a character, because he's very similar voice, similar
arm
acting.
twisting.
Like, it's like if we can't afford Sergeant Slaughter, we're going to use Leatherneck in that place. I'm convinced that's the case, and I like Leatherneck. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, no,
But yeah, he very much, like, you could see that he sounds like him, he looks like him.
and right, and this guy here is he what, Gung Ho's dad or something?
Well,
He
that's
was like,
that's Leatherneck.
yeah, no, he's just
Well, they're both Marines.
yeah.
Yeah.
They got the same mustache.
They do have the same mustache, except
Yeah.
Gung Ho wears it better.
Yes.
Quite frankly, let's not disparage Gung Ho.
No, Gung Ho is a favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Gung Ho is definitely a favorite of mine.
And
Here
we got
the Dreadnoks. Yeah.
including Monkey Wrench, who was I think Monkey Wrench was a great addition to it.
Yeah.
Khan should be coming in tomorrow.
I was a
They
big
got
fan.
Those Aussie accents, I love it. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, those
Ooh,
accents were all over the place.
get out of the
And
garbage.
so
you
we're
kids.
the first we see of these kids, these little orphan kids. That shot could have been in 3D. These little orphan kids are rummaging through the garbage. And that's our
Right.
first introduction to what will become the very special episode of G.I. Joe.
Tell me to chill out.
There's a sweet Cobra branded little
Yeah,
pocket
you're
knife.
right. A little, yeah.
Yeah, that this little sneak thief grabs.
What they
off
would
the
call,
table.
yeah, in MASH they call him a
Yeah.
Slicky Boy.
Slicky. Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Just like Bonkan all up and down the river. Trouble
Oh,
is,
that tattoo,
we
man.
Cobra
I
Falconer
The
love
envy
it.
of
I love
every
it.
the envy of every leather bar in San Francisco. That tattoo. He looks like he was right out of Tom of Finland.
That's so good. Yeah, so this little kid.
Okay. Oh, did he pick one of the Joe's pockets? Is
Not
that
yet.
Okay.
Not yet. I think
that's
we're,
how-
I
okay.
think we're going to get to that.
All
I
right,
think that's how we're going to be introduced
That's
to the
definitely. I mean, that's how it always happens.
Yeah.
They catch him.
kind of like.
You
Oh no!
Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
They picked his pocket
Right.
and then pretended like he dropped it, and they want a reward
Yeah,
or
because the
something.
girl
'cause
wanted
he-
to do the right thing. She wanted to hand it
okay.
back to him, but now he's going to rat him out.
Oh no!
and
I
that's
guess-
how the Joes.
I'm thinking it's like they picked his pocket and they found out that what they got was not valuable, so they give it back.
No,
and,
no, it was
yeah.
that girl trying to keep him on the straight and narrow.
What was in that man's purse? Let's find Jeff and the end quick.
Barrow's here.
Yeah, I mean this is very much like an episode of MASH.
Yep. Yeah,
It's
and
really its closest.
even though the voices are kind of stereotypical, it's not
Yeah.
any worse. It's not as bad as you would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I think
for a
'cause it's-
cartoon.
because they still got to have him speaking in English with
Yeah.
an accent. You know,
Yeah. I can't get over that line about capitalist pigs. It's like it became very political
the
there.
animation I think is great, especially because these aren't backgrounds and backdrops that we normally see.
That's
on the show.
right. These aren't reused.
Right.
Yeah.
So there must have been a decent budget going
Yeah.
into this episode.
Yeah.
Because this is definitely not stock footage.
Yeah.
For this show.
That's right.
I
That's
wonder.
right.
I wonder though, if these are backdrops from another show, like you said, like not a Rambo, but some other. If there was some other like adventure show that they
Yeah.
had some of these, because
Yeah, but I
this whole row of house, this is all new and
You're right, and it
looks great.
Yeah, and right, but I can't think of any other show where they might have been able to cop this
Chuck
from.
Norris and the Karate
The
Commandos.
Karate Commandos, the KK, the KK.
That's one of the thieves.
I think Karate Commandos. I feel like Karate Commandos and other shows like that. They were just. I mean, it's not the different production companies. Oh, look at this.
Cops have cornered one
Those
of them.
cops are.
Yeah, and
The Keystone-
what I love
Keystone
is,
Cops.
is GI Joe just sticking their nose into like a local like
Issue, yeah,
petty
it's-
thief issue.
Yeah.
that feel like this kid's going to get hit by a truck because he's not paying attention. He's too entranced by the mustaches on these American men.
Those American pigs.
Today's Filecard Feature is on the Cobra Falconer. I can't say this with a straight face. Raptor. His file name is unknown, and that's probably for the best. Raptor was a yuppie tax consultant who took up falconry as a pastime and soon became obsessed with the avian blood sport. He discovered that by breeding bigger and stronger birds and equipping them with steel-tipped talons, they were capable of attacking much more profitable game. Caught poaching on a Cobra mink ranch by Destro, Raptor joined the ranks of Cobra legions and began work on developing a bird of prey strong enough to attack a G.I. Joe. Quote, Raptor doesn't have any delusions about what he is even if he dresses up in that bird suit of his and spends most of his time in a giant bird cage. Those are means to an end, and the bottom line for Raptor is his non-taxable profit margin. Much like Dr. Mindbender, he is a bare-chested devil of a man, and much like Serpentor, he encases himself in the flesh or visage of the animal to which he's devoted his cause to. In this case, a bird. Now, what kind of bird? When you look closely at his headgear, it looks like probably supposed to be an eagle, but it kind of looks like an owl. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Raptor actually doesn't fly, even though he's got those wings. There's just so much to unpack with him. I love that he's the tax consultant. I don't know how that translates into being a birder, that they keep him focused on the books, and the non-taxable profit margin is fantastic. It's just that he's just so silly. I had him. I totally had Raptor and his bird. And just imagine a room full of people. They're all dressed a little awkward, but they're like, okay, we're going to dress scary to scare people around the world. We're going to terrorize people. And then in walks Raptor. He makes Dr. Mindbender look good. So Raptor, Cobra Falconer, your file name is unknown, probably because your family would be embarrassed if it got out. We salute you.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
So we're back from commercial. This kid's going to get hit by a truck.
And it's interesting how the DVD actually has the commercial bumpers, the ins and outs.
Risk your life to
Yeah.
save me? No one's ever
It's
done
great
that.
on the it's the same company that does Transformers, and
Ah.
and Transformers had a different bumpers. Like every episode was different, so they had multiple ones that had different Transformers on them.
Wow.
It's like with G.I. Joe, it's always the same one. Or they changed it for the second season, but it's pretty much always the same one.
Right.
On those, like one day you would get Bumblebee doing a Transform, and then the next one would be Jazz, and then it would be whatever different Transformers. So that was
Very
always
cool.
a fun little crap show
Yeah.
with them. That I was like,
However,
why
it's
can't you
not
do that
your
with G.I.
ordinary
Joe?
garden variety tree sap. This is from the Chulmugra tree.
So here we
It's native
find.
to
Okay,
Southeast Asia.
this is why
Refined and
this,
taken in small doses,
Here
it's
we
a
go.
natural sedative, but too much reduces its victim to a near zombie state.
Okay.
See?
Hey.
Okay, so it is drugs. It is drug
and that's
smuggling. Yep.
that's actually pretty dark. That's actually pretty dark.
Mind control, and that's where Cobra comes into play.
Okay,
Cobra,
so-
I think Cobra
oh.
wants this mind control drug.
I didn't even register with me that Cobra might be in this episode. I guess they got to
Well,
work
the
him in there.
Dreadnoughts, yeah.
Well, they got to work him in every episode, I
Yeah,
suppose.
and I
but
think I've been feeling that pocket knife we saw earlier is going to come back, and that's going to tip the Joes off that Cobra's in the mix.
gotcha. Okay.
Because they're going to see that and be like, hey, where did you get this?
Yeah.
And I did watch this. I just don't remember some of the fineries.
Right.
Oh, here we go. This is the moment. Yeah, that's it.
Here we go. Yeah.
He looked like.
Where did
it
you
looked like,
get this?
It looked like that coin looked like a Bitcoin, like the image of a Bitcoin, like you know what I mean, like the image that you see online.
Because I think Bitcoins are probably supposed to look as generic as possible. There you had a generic coin.
So
Okay, here we go.
This is our first real
Mindbender.
introduction, yeah.
Mindbender. Okay, who is this?
Zorana, that's Zartan's sister. She looks great.
Yeah.
And this dude looks awesome, too.
Sexy Wendy O. Williams.
Yeah, very.
Punk
You know
look.
what? Very much Wendy O. Williams. I never made that connection. I'll bet you she was an inspiration for it.
She was an inspiration for a lot of things for
boy.
me back when I was
Shocker.
15 years
Were
old.
you into the punk scene?
No, but I was certainly into
Wendy O. Williams.
Chicks who like to wear little clothes as possible. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so all right, so they gave him a piece of chewing gum.
Yeah.
And now he's.
Yep.
Oh, and it's making him
and
susceptible
that's the obey
to
without question, because the chewing gum was made out of that tree sap.
Yep.
So that's going to be Cobra's.
And this is
big plan is to go chewing gum.
This isn't as
take
far
over
fetched
the
as,
world.
as this is not as far fetched as you might imagine.
It's not. And also, let me point out,
But can you make enough
the
gum
connection
to
of
hypnotize Bangkok?
a former dentist running the chewing gum scam
It was Mindbender.
and Dr. Mindbender. Let me point that out, America.
That's a riot.
That's
a riot.
Yeah, that is what's happening. And there's a Vipers. They got a whole operation
This
here
is,
going
the first taste is free, and the next
Yeah.
one's going to cost you, and
Yeah.
then I'll be able to charge you on the back end when your teeth rot and
This
fall.
is the precursor episode to the to introducing the Cobra. There was a Cobra drug dealer, and it was called Headman.
Headman, and he had his headhunter henchman. Yep.
Yeah, which came into play in the DIC episode, and even Cobra was like, "We don't like drugs."
Right. And I always thought.
Meanwhile, this episode shows, maybe Cobra does like drugs just
right.
a little bit.
Drugs are fine.
Maybe
It's
drugs
just-
are okay with Cobra.
Yeah, and it's just I never really got that when comic book or cartoon organized criminals would decry drugs, and then you finally watch The Godfather and you see, oh wait a second, and the mob didn't like drugs either.
Well, yeah, that was
at least at first.
Yeah, well, it's not that they didn't like drugs. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
They didn't like drugs going to white people.
That's exactly it. That's true.
They say in the movie, I'm okay with the
right, yeah, exactly.
the
It was-
people of
yeah.
color getting drugs. So
Yeah.
Let's not exonerate the mob so quickly.
No, I far be it for me to do so. It's just, but it's interesting this hallucinogenic honey. It's interesting because it's kind of it's
Also,
kind of like
Roadblock showed up. I think they were like, we need one more
Roadblock.
mustache.
Oh, I love Roadblock.
We need one more mustache to round this mustache trio
The
out.
Louisiana Roadblock.
Now move out.
Yes, sir.
The kids are working. So now these orphan kids are working for the Joes. So that's
Right.
kind of cool.
Right.
It's like their own. What is it? Sherlock Holmes, the Baker Street Regulars. Isn't that what he called them?
I was thinking like Fagin and the Artful
Oh yeah,
Dodger
Fagin
and
the
his,
Artful Dodger,
and
yeah.
his
yeah, and then Sherlock Holmes had all the homeless kids working for him
Oh,
too.
that's right.
I think it was called like the Baker Street
Regulars,
or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep, the Bowery
and,
Boys.
yeah, and except in this case, I don't like that they have Roadblock's T-shirt being loose. Roadblock's a muscle man. Like I
right,
want
he
that
needs
shirt
to.
tight.
Yeah, exactly. Show the guns.
I love that it's the three mustache. It's the mustache
Yeah.
trio.
Well, I love the fact that they got the. Ooh, hello. Oh boy, what is this all about?
That is a woman of the night.
Yeps.
Although what's pretty cool is they're on the Swamp Fire.
Yeah.
That was a neat toy.
No,
it was
but
a little neon for me, but there was a neat
Right,
toy.
exactly. The neon thing always bothered me. It's like this is the last thing you want is
Yeah.
you're a soldier is to be
Right.
dressed in pink and
Right.
lime green. Now this lady of the night who is actually lady of the early afternoon. So
Yeah, well,
her,
listen,
rates
it's
are
nighttime somewhere, right?
Yeah,
It's got to be
it means-
nighttime somewhere.
It means her rates are going to be discounted. She's not going to be able to charge as much because it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
We're quickly heading into Full Metal Jacket territory.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
Is he? Wait a second.
Gung Ho disguised
he
as
is
the
in
chef.
yeah,
Like,
he's in
they're not
disguise.
going to recognize him. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
Hello.
they're not going for disguise.
Yo, sucker.
I like they took the time to put on the hat.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're going to get into a little bit of fighting. So while the fight happens, Chris Goldrup, we've been asking our guests, if you were a Joe or a Cobra, who are you and what would your name be and what would your specialty be? You tell me.
As a pacifist and as an anti-war, with an anti-war mentality, I have a feeling that my code name would be.
Whoa, real quick.
What did that
That woman of the
chopstick?
night, that chopstick was explosive.
It had
Is
an
that Zorana?
Maybe.
That might be Zorana. But
Yeah, I'd have to-
That chopstick that was in her hair, or hairpin, or whatever it was, just exploded.
Yeah.
So you're a pacifist,
Right. So my code name would probably be like Pinko. And
Pinko.
Yeah,
And would you be a Joe or a Cobra?
I'd be a Joe.
You'd be a Joe.
But what it would be is Pinko, and my primary military specialty would be conscientious objector.
I'm not afraid
Interesting.
of you.
Or if I were drafted anyway, I would probably be
Somebody your own size.
yeah, I was conscientious objector. Or if I was drafted, my code name would be like 4F. And my primary
4F.
my primary military specialty would be prisoner of war.
My God. We're going into commercial break with 4F.
G.I. Joe will return
we'll be right
after
back.
these messages.
Hey, Joe and Joe listeners, listen up. This is your last chance to enter our Facebook contest. You have until July 1st, 2017 to go to our Facebook page, Facebook/Joe and Joe Pod, and leave a comment on our contest post telling us who your favorite Joe or Cobra is. Everyone entered by July 1st will be eligible to win the prize, which currently consists of the G.I. Joe Rise of Cobra EA Games promotional comic, G.I. Joe in 3D issue number 1, and a copy of G.I. Joe number 5. With only a few days left in June, you have the chance to add even more comics to the prize by telling your friends to listen to the show and help grow it. For every 100 additional subscribers we pick up, I'm adding another book to the prize bag. So get cracking. Only a couple days left, and stay tuned to find out who the winner is. Thanks for listening, thanks for sharing, and yo, Joe.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
Meanwhile, at the Hall of Justice.
I kind of like your name being 4F.
Yeah.
I kind of like that being your nickname.
Now the only thing is if I actually had to serve.
Yeah, you had to serve.
And
You
I
have to
use
serve. You
and
have
I
to serve.
use I use my my.
Oh, it
is-
was Zorana.
And look at that. She just peels
it was
her.
Zorana.
She just
Well, then
peels
let's put
her
it this
face
way.
off.
I'm glad that her brother wasn't on the boat.
Yeah.
Because that would have been awkward.
Yeah.
They'd
Yeah,
been like,
exactly.
hey, Hoochie Mama.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I'm your sister. That would have been a little weird.
Yeah.
A little weird. So
I just- I
4F,
see, if
so,
I-
so
well-
you do get drafted, though.
Okay,
You're
so if I
drafted
have to serve,
and you're so good at what you do.
One particular thing, yeah. If I have to use a particular talent that I actually have in real life, I could see my code name being Spin Doctor, and then my primary specialty would be public relations. Like I would be the Sean.
Okay.
I'd have to be like the Sean Spicer
Okay.
of GI Joe.
So you got a couple names here. I think I feel like the nickname. Let me, if I can, let me tie this all in a ribbon for
Please
you.
do.
The nickname that your buddies call you behind your back is 4F.
Yeah.
Your official Joe code name is Spin Doctor. Okay.
Yeah.
But everyone behind your back
That
calls you 4F.
Yep.
But
Which
you are such a patriot. And your job is the Sean Spicer job.
Yeah, exactly.
You're the media front for
Right.
G.I. Joe. You're
First,
the spokesman.
Exactly.
for
I
G.I.
have
Joe.
to go in front of the press and say,
Right.
well, first of all, we are
You
neither
take-
confirming or denying the existence of GI Joe.
You take all the slings and arrows, and you do it because you love your country so much that you're willing to put up with being called 4F and being called nicknames
Yeah.
and all that stuff. That's what I'm talking about.
Right, and it's either so the name is either Spin Doctor or my code name would be Redacted.
No. You've just now introduced 4 names. You're done.
Okay.
I'm calling.
No, because
I'm putting a stop to this.
I
Chris.
like Redacted only because it's a
Unacceptable.
joke. It's a joke.
Nope.
It's like your code name is Redacted. Well, okay, but you can tell me. It's like no. It's not that my code name is Redacted. My code name is actually the word Redacted.
I'm not even kidding. Before
Okay.
we started this, you said you put thought into this, and
Yeah.
now you've come up with 4 different code names. So you've put thought. You've just never put any decisions into it.
No. No. And it was
Let's put it this way. Your name is Spin Doctor. Your file card, literally everything is redacted on it.
yes. Everything is a black mark.
Everything is
over
a
it.
black mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
That-
So
I
no one
like
knows
that.
who you are. No one knows what you are.
Yeah.
You can spin your way out of any conversation.
And Snake Eyes has got nothing on me as
Yeah,
far as
Snake-
secrecy.
you know everything about Snake Eyes.
Yeah,
You-
exactly.
You
Exactly.
know everything about everybody.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
know
okay.
what. I know what.
Okay.
Yeah. I know
Okay.
what Snake Eyes look
Before
like.
before we get back to the
Yeah.
show, do you have a 5th nickname you want to
No,
try to
no,
introduce?
that was it. That was
Okay,
it.
That was it.
Yeah.
4?
Four.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because I was trying to think of everything that suited my personality.
Yeah.
And it's like I don't want to fight,
Sure.
but if I have to fight, let me do something where I'm safe in the green zone, telling people,
Yeah.
well, GI Joe may have bombed that
Get it over with.
orphanage,
so
but
you're the guy that when you're introduced in the cartoon or in the comic book, everybody, even the readers, hate you. They're like,
Exactly.
this guy is so slimy.
Yep.
And then at some point, you get into some kind of attack. There's some kind of battle, and you're forced to make a choice. And it's not necessarily a fighting choice, but there's something that goes on, and people expect you to run weasel, and you're like, no, I'm a part of the team. I just don't want to get in the mix.
I don't know. I don't see any redeeming qualities in the character at all.
Okay,
I
then
honestly don't.
You are. Maybe you're a Cobra spy then, because really, I got to tell you, you're.
It just I
I'm
just
trying
inadvertently
to paint you a good picture, but I think you're actually a Cobra spy.
There's nothing redeeming about this particular character.
Okay.
None of them really. There's nothing redeeming about any of these particular characters. I just it's just
Dr. Mindbender's offering gum.
yeah. Here, have
Because we've got
some fruit stripe.
Yeah, back to the show. We got the Mustache Brigade has been captured by Cobra.
yeah. I'm not sure if we've missed anything of any particular significance.
Yeah, they're on
but-
Cobra. They're onto their trail, and they chased them into like the boonies to find where their farm is. And the Mustache Brigade got captured. We got some Conquest X-30s
Hey,
coming.
here
in.
we
So
got
we
the-
get
we got the
typical- this
bats.
is
Bats are being
typical
blown
Joe.
up.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is typical Joe action. Beachhead awesome.
I loved how they created the bat so that they could actually like blow
Yes, finally people could-
up,
yeah.
and it would just
Yep.
be be
Yep.
a robot. You could finally shoot him.
And these little kids that they had helped earlier, they showed up to help the Joes out.
Yeah.
So the Mustache Brigade gets
Have they
rescued.
have they explained yet in the episode who these kids are?
Pitt Street regulars. No.
Okay.
We get that towards the end, which is
Okay.
the somber part of the show.
All right.
Yeah.
Because so far there isn't anything to distinguish this episode in particular, except for where
Well, I
it
mean,
takes
except for the fact that
place.
they're just straight orphans running the streets.
Right.
You know, like if you think about that deeper, it's not that happy.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and
It's
also
certainly-
earlier there was a prostitute.
Yeah.
Also not exactly, and we know it was Zorana, but still portraying the role of
Right.
essaying the role.
Right. I mean, they didn't. It's not like they did any.
Leatherneck is using that Cobra pocket knife, which is great. He
to
just broke
break
into an
a
airplane,
pressure-controlled
Yeah, he did.
aircraft. Exactly.
and now he's slugging.
Whoa! Mindbender just.
Dr. Mindbender. Wait, listen,
just
he's a
back body-
muscled up dude, though.
Yeah, but
Look
he
at
just
him.
back body dropped. He just back
Yeah.
body dropped him, and I love how it's like he's working all the way down. Like he falls out of the plane and he's shooting as he falls out of the plane.
That's a Fast and Furious kind of move.
Yeah, that's like that Burt Reynolds movie where the stuntman falls off that building in Miami and he's firing his gun all
it
the
was
way
like Gator?
down. I don't.
Might have been
It
Gator,
wasn't
yeah.
Gator. It was like.
So
it
this
was
is great.
Or later, but
This is great. So we end up with everyone having a good meal.
or as
And
good a
here we
meal
go.
as
Here
good a
we go.
meal
Let's
as you could
listen.
have
That's
in
not
Southeast
good
Asia.
news. As General Hawk said, you kids can come to America.
Here we go.
We'll find you some foster homes.
No, Thailand is our home. We don't want to leave.
But the task treats you like dirt.
Like dust, but it is still our home. If we had troubles in America, where could we run?
We have much to learn. I owe much to my Lee, Stephen, Jeff, and Lien. They will work at my end as partners.
Leatherneck, talk them out of it. They're better off in America. Nah. All they need is a home and some love. What country they're in doesn't matter. Okay.
See?
workshop.
That's Leatherneck putting a button on the
Right,
problem.
exactly.
Putting a button on the problem.
Yep.
Like this is, it ends on a high note. Like they're gonna still just live, although that's their uncle or whatever. But so they,
Right,
whatever.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it sort of ends on a happy note.
Yeah,
that they're gonna have love, but that uncle looks 97 years old.
Sure. Yeah,
He's gonna die of a heart attack any day now.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be back on the street.
He's old. And
Yeah.
he's old as
Yeah.
they
So-
call the kids dirt. He's dirt. He's
yeah.
actually old as
Yeah,
and as old as.
Yeah, they're basically just calling the kids their uncle's age. So
Yeah.
what did you think of the episode?
Well,
Chris?
it was interesting too because it was that end kind of it disavows that whole thing of like white. The white savior. It's like we're come to America and we'll take care of you, and it's like no, we'll be better here, and it's all of a sudden it's a subversion of that trope of of the white person coming in and solving these little brown or yellow people's problems.
Right.
Which
Which is
like
great.
They're
Like,
kind
yeah.
of self-sufficient in that regard.
It's pretty great. I like that a lot.
yeah.
It's a lot more realistic. It totally is.
The drug thing is very interesting. I don't know if the writer of this episode was aware that that there's actually sort of there's a sort of a grounding in reality. A couple of things that, like if you've ever seen the movie The Serpent and the Rainbow,
Oh, yeah.
about zombies in Haiti, it turns out that zombification was partially caused by a drug
Yeah.
that turned you into
And then
a
there's
mindless
and then there's
zombie.
that stuff that they chew. I think it's rampant in Africa, where they give them to those children soldiers and they chew it and they get all
yes,
crazed. It's
yes.
some kind of methamphetamine effect, and they give it to these young
Child
kids.
soldiers,
and it's bubble gum
Yeah.
basically, or chewing tobacco
Yeah.
kind of a thing. I forget what that's called, but
Right.
yeah, that is a thing.
In Southeast Asia, I think it's called BOT.
Yeah,
B-A-H-T,
yeah. So, but I do, listen. I love that they have Dr. Mindbender running it because he's a dentist.
Yeah.
And who would know? Who would know more about both drugs that make you feel bad and also tooth decay than Dr. Mindbender? And Dr. Mindbender showing some muscles, taking on Leatherneck one-on-one, mano-y-mano.
That was wild when he gets thrown out of the plane and he takes that shot. And I guess the drug is flammable.
It
went
seemed
up
to be
like
flammable,
it went
yeah.
up like nitro, like nitroglycerin.
The
It just blows up
explosive-
the entire plane.
My morning revelation to my wife just explodes.
Yep.
Well, Chris, I'm happy to have you on the
Oh,
show.
man, this
I'm
was
glad,
a
I'm glad we've been
blast.
talking about doing it for a while. I'm glad
Yeah.
to have you, and I'm glad to have you on because I think you're a worldly man with serious groundings, and I mean it. I mean that. So I'm glad that you were on for this episode.
This was a lot of.
This is a somber-ish episode.
This was
It's
a lot
real
of fun.
thing, yeah.
This was a lot of fun. In a way, I'm glad I had the occasion to come on for an episode that was more like this because some of the traditional episodes would probably have left me a little cold.
Yeah, because there's really nothing silly about
No,
this. I mean,
no.
the mind control part, like you said, there's real stuff that does that.
Yeah.
So there's nothing unrealistic about it.
Yeah.
They're growing drugs in Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
They're importing them to affect people's minds.
Right.
There's nothing crazy about. There's no
Yeah.
teleportation. There's no giant lizards.
Exactly. There's no, Cobra Commander
Yeah.
whose voice
Yeah.
drives me absolutely
The
insane.
most far-fetched thing on this is that all three dudes had those amazing mustaches.
Exactly,
Like, just
exactly.
think 3 guys on a
Right.
team would have the same amazing mustache.
Exactly. Yeah, well,
Winner, us.
Where can you find a mustache cream in the middle of the Southeast
thank
Asian
you.
jungle
That's what I'm
that would
talking
keep
about.
it so black
Supple,
and lustrous?
but it's so
and
like
just-
sweaty.
oh.
Maybe just the sweat.
Maybe.
Like it's
It's-
not a dry climate.
Right, and they had the kitchen, so maybe they got a little bit of bacon grease on it or something like that.
Boom, with bacon grease. Well, listen, if you're out there, thank you for listening. You can follow me at Joe on Joe Pod on Twitter and Facebook, and send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. If you want to be a guest on the show, we'd love to have you on it. And Chris Goldrup, thank you for being a guest on the show.
Oh, brother, thank you for having me.
Oh, man. Well, listen, now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.